The point is, I think, that I would make is ISIS fighters are not 10 feet tall. This is not the Game of Thrones that we're watching. I don't know about you, I got hooked on that a couple months ago. But I think the point is, we're not watching the fighting for the Seven Kingdoms or the Black Castle. Sometimes you would think that, but we aren't. So I won't go over all the details. I think you've been watching. The latest pictures are horrific and have been posted on YouTube. In case you wondered what ISIS was up to, and that peaceful area that it says it has settled, which now has power and water, but it also has a high or growing loss of life due to executions. So there are questions for ISIS, of course, and I'll skip those because I think we already know what they are. But I do have questions, for example, I don't know who was fighting up there. I don't know what was promised all around, but my questions are much more focused on the other players, the recipients, if you will. And I'll start with Turkey. I think that's the best place since that's where we've been so far. And here, I really don't know how Turkey views developments in Iraq. I do know that we've been watching Turkey change its policy toward the Arabs, towards the Arab world for the past several years or more. But I also know that Turkey has been playing a game, Erbil against Baghdad. Are we with the Kurds? Have we decided to accept what they want, or are we against them? Are we worried? Is it all about oil anyway? Is it personal? Is there something in this in where Turkey may or may not stand which has to do with the personal emotional feelings of one leader towards another? But I need to know what is the policy towards Erbil and Baghdad. I need to know what the government feels even towards Syria, but towards ISIS and these radical opponents to regimes. I need to know that more than anything else, I think, because the rumors of Turkish aid or Turkey turning its head or tacit support are too strong to ignore. I think that, and I know that President Obama raised these issues with, in his meetings with Erdogan, which I think was in May, about Turkish aid to extremist organizations. There are rumors that Turkey has allowed ISIS to cross the borders, has given it support. Now, I don't know. I certainly am not going to dignify the silly rumor, halfway silly anyway, that is that Ibrahim al-Duri, the long missing, the last companion of Saddam, has been hidden in Turkey for a long time. It's possible. He's, I think, had a lot of population, especially his strong role in the Naqshbandi order for so long. But even that I will put aside, because we know that ISIS is doing what it's doing with the support of Sunni Arab tribes and leaders, some of whom have been in exile in Turkey for several years. If anyone remembers Tariq al-Hashimi, that's where his address has been for a long time. And there are other prominent Sunni Arabs as well. So the complicity runs deep, and that's what allows ISIS to be so successful. Now, what does Turkey want in this, if it is a new Iraq? I know, Sykes-Picot is gone, but what is Turkey looking for? Is it looking for a new Sunnistan, a Sunni state, or a province that will be very dependent and loyal to it? The Kurds supposedly were looking for that for a long time, too. But do they want a mini-state? Do they want to expand this control or influence? I don't know. Is it a question about Erdogan's vision for the new Iraq? But the question also becomes, what is Turkey prepared to do to defend or support this state? Because if anyone thinks they have an ally in ISIS or in some of the groups that are promising friendship or cooperation with Turkey, think twice. There are no friends in this region. There are only interests. Wow, that's a classic statement. So I think some of the questions I've heard is, well, why did it take 3 years to name Nusrat as a terrorist group? There is very little mention, from what I'm told, of ISIS in Turkey anyway, but what is the priority threat? What's the national security, and is there a strategic plan for this? Let me move on quickly, because I know time is of the essence. We've noticed that President Rouhani was in Turkey recently. I think one of the days he was there is when a lot of these, the military operations began. He's restated his policy towards Iraq. He's even said cooperation may be possible with the United States, and they are going to meet this week, I think, on the edges of the nuclear meetings which are being held. That's all out in the press. And I'll come back to what they want, but I would say here that Iran is very clear on what it wants in Iraq. Independent, united, friendly government that will be compliant with its interests. I don't think they have a priority in any leader per se, certainly not in Maliki, but they will take a leader who's in charge and who will support their goals. They have friends everywhere. They have friends among the Sunni Arabs who are supporting ISIS, perhaps, or who are opposing this. Prominent Sunni Arab politicians go back and forth all the time, as do all the other politicians in Iraq, be they secular, Shia, Sunni, whatever, to get support and opposite. We can go into that more if you're interested, but just to know that they have a hand. The IRGC has moved in some more units, and that the brilliant General Soleimani is there in Baghdad. None of this should be any surprise to anyone. The Iranians also, though, I would note, believe that Europe and the United States especially have no choice now but to support Maliki and Assad, or whoever, to support the opposition from the ISIS and others. Let me talk to the Kurds for 2 minutes. Sorry, Denise, that's all I've got. So far, the Kurds are the real winners. They have, there are hints of deals between the KRG and Turkey and ISIS, and what they're demanding in bargains if they're going to support anything or do anything to help Baghdad. What a position to be in. To Baghdad will help you if you accept our demands, if you give us the budget, if you recognize our oil export needs, if you recognize our position in the disputed territories. A lot of ifs here, and even then we may or may not help you. But I think the Kurds have already spoken very strongly when you see that they did nothing to help against the government as they were coming in. And if the Kurds think either they have a deal or that ISIS won't hurt them or they can control it, that's fools living in a fool's paradise. They were quick to enter and occupy disputed territories, including Kirkuk, without helping Baghdad fight. They claim that Baghdad wants to use them in a dangerous fight and is doing whatever it can to challenge them. And while Maliki manipulates the situation, even welcomes ISIS into Mosul in order to be able to declare martial law, emergency law, and to take over. Boy, to believe something like that is really extreme, even for Maliki's standards. So was there a deal? I don't know. Are there any conditions under which the Kurds would join Iraqi forces against ISIS? Or has ISIS promised to stay out of the KRG, or at least for the moment? And who did they promise that to is another interesting question. Point is, there's a lot of people benefiting from Baghdad's being so tied down, locked up. All of the issues have come to a halt except for the real one, which is fighting the enemy. So have the Kurds picked their side? They're waiting to see who comes out as a winner, I would guess, if nothing else. By the way, the KRG Prime Minister, Neshirvan Barzani, is in Tehran today. No surprise there either. Let me conclude, because I think we're about at that point usually. Few comments here. And the first one is nothing is forever. You can cut all the deals you want. Things are happening very fast. It is about interest, but at the end of the day, there will be losers among the winners as well. For the Iraqis, for Maliki and the government, national reconciliation. I would include the Kurds in this, the Sunnis and all of the Iraqis. National reconciliation has never been an option. And you're paying the price now for the fact that no one was ever really committed to following that path. It's been more about revenge and retaliation, and there's been very little progress, virtually no progress made. All the parties, I think, involved in these events have shown themselves to be short-sighted and self-destructive. Now, if that isn't taking a risk on my part, I don't know what is. Was Maliki responsible? Of course. But why? Are there things he could have done to forestall it? Maybe, but it may be that there was an inevitability. I hate to think that, because I think that there are many Iraqis who do want to see no civil war and a way of living together, but they are far from the center. Corruption everywhere, I don't even have to talk about that. Now, should the ISIS uprising be quelled? Should it be, or if it is, when it is? Given what is happening now and these alliances or rumors, and there's always something in a rumor, right? I think this is the civil war that I've never predicted. I've always said we have not seen in Iraq yet. We've seen a lot of sectarian fighting, but this is it. This is civil war, or call it Civil War 2.0 if you want. And what will be the next phase of this? Will it be the Arab versus Kurd? Because I don't know that ISIS realizes it, but it is doing more than anything else could do to ultimately bring Arabs together. You may find that Shia and Sunni are divided now, but territory that had been claimed by or lived in by the Arabs, this is not a permanent situation, and I think we need to be aware of that. Nothing is forever. Last point. Yeah, I promise. It's easy to blame the United States for the consequences of what is for the Iraq War, occupation, for removing Saddam, for the failures of the Iraqi army and the Maliki government to live up to our high standards. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of hearing that, because this is an Iraqi-made issue. We may not have understood it. We really thought we could come in and with all that money and all of these reforms and even the kind of changes we insisted on and we thought we were seeing work out in the military, could we have predicted it would fail? You know Americans, we're optimists anyway. But the point is that this is an Iraqi-made crisis that might have been avoided or at least ameliorated if the Shia and the Kurds and the Sunnis were not so hell-bent on revenge, and if Maliki could have controlled his urge to eliminate all his rivals. Let's begin with the Sunnis, I'm sure he said to himself. But again, my final point, national reconciliation has never been an option, and it does seem these days that it's farther out of reach than ever.
Thank you very much.
Is that 10 minutes? Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.